I'm Greg. I'm here with Dr. Degeer. He's a chiropractor. What exactly do you do regularly?
Well, I see a lot of athletes, so with trampolinists or gymnasts, we see a lot of injuries, and that's what we'll be going over today, just some common ways to maybe help some things that you see in the gym. So.
Yeah, trampoline, tumbling, cheer, all these kind of sports definitely get a lot of injuries, and I know for myself, I used to spend a lot of time in physiotherapy and things like that, so Chris is going to help us kind of go through some of the common problems and see if we can help you guys out at home.
Tell me about a quadratus lumborum
Yes.
issue, and that's, I'm sure Greg has explained too, it's quadratus lumborum. A lot of golfers get this injured, a lot of trampolinists who twist because it helps you twist your torso. So essentially this muscle starts around your pelvis here, so this is called your iliac crest. So this muscle extends from here and it goes up and connects to what's called your spine on the side, and then the very bottom portion of your ribs. So we're going to be showing you how to inhibit that muscle, because usually it's overworked and now it's in a state of fatigue. So now how do we help calm that muscle down is what we'd be going over.
We have a lot where if you're doing a flip, twist, whatever it is, and you land a little off like this, a little over-rotated, a little over-twisted, then that really puts a lot of strain there, and it tightens up to basically save you from breaking your back. It's one of those stabilizing muscles, and when it gets tight, it's hard to be able to kind of re-stretch it out, right? So we're trying to figure out how we can loosen that up, because you'll be walking a little bit weird, so we're going to try to go over that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it.
And then just a quick background on kinesiology taping is there's a lot of uses, but if we were going to calm down a muscle, we just want to first just have two anchor points. So where you first place the tape. So that would be our anchor. There's no tension in this at all. And then whenever we take the tape off, then there's some inherent just tension in there, but you want to maybe not pull it all the way. A lot of times less is more in this situation. So we only want about 25% or so, maybe up to 30, when we place it down. So we're not really extending it all the way, just really light. I would, like I said, less is more a lot of the times. So with the muscle starting here, we want to anchor it below that point, so right there. So you want to see, and a lot of times you can Google where these muscles are, like where the origin insertion is, and you just want to go further away from it. So this is being the anchor. So there's no tension in this spot. So now this is usually going to be if we're going to facilitate the muscle. So now if it's like underacting, this is what we would do. So go ahead and just like torque forward and twist to the side, and what the natural muscle does is it pulls here and it pulls the rest of your spine that way. So now we're going to facilitate that. So now we're helping this muscle out by, again, not way too much tension, just about 25-30%, and then there's no tension in this end point where that's our second anchor. And there's like heat activated adhesive stuff inside the tape itself, so that's why we rub it in like so. So now if you stand up, we have this convolution or these ripples that are just helping the fascia kind of just pull that direction to where it's facilitating movement that way. Now, going back, if we wanted to inhibit the muscle, as if it's overworked, we need to calm it down. We're going to do the opposite thing on the other side just to demonstrate. So we would anchor up here instead and then pull down. So now we're pulling up that way. So it's the opposite way of what the muscle would do naturally to contract.
And what is fascia? Just for those who don't know.
Fascia is like, you can think of it, it's a combination of all these like webs. It surrounds muscle tissues, and it's almost like saran wrap covering muscles. So if you like eat a steak or chicken or something, and then you can see those like that stuff you can like tear apart. That's really the fascia that you're separating
Okay, cool.
So a lot of times with injuries, you want like collagen to be laid down like parallel to each other. But if you have an injury or overuse stuff, you're gonna lay down collagen haphazardly to where it's like overriding itself and becomes like this, perpendicular instead.
Yeah.
So with what we want to do with any kind of rehab with connective tissue or fascia, we want those collagen fibers to be rearranged the same way again. So it's really nice, smooth.
And doing stuff like this helps realign it?
Yes, exactly. And it's really interesting. It's really subtle in what we're doing. We're just pulling that fascia in the direction of how we want to correct it. So it's not like this really aggressive
Just a
movement.
gentle little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So, we've had studies and whatnot just showing like pre and post treatment-wise and how it's affecting the fascia in terms of how we're...
And if you were to get regular white tape and say you don't have any of this type of special tape, can you get the same effects with just regular tape?
Like athletic tape is great for structural support. So a lot of times, like if you just want to stabilize your wrist, or like tape an ankle just to keep it in that
locked position.
Yeah, like you've hurt a ligament and you just want to stabilize it to where it's not being too lax.
Right.
Athletic tape is great for that situation, but it doesn't have these adhesive properties of how
Pulls it in a direction.
Yeah, and just like the makeup of how the strips themselves are cut, it's not going to have this like inhibiting or facilitating effect on
tighten
fascia.
up a little bit and give it a little support, but it won't actually help really solve and fix the collagen.
Exactly. I wouldn't use these strategies with athletic tape, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, just making sure. And you can buy all this stuff online and just search it up, and you can go to regular places and get it.
Yeah, and not to get too caught up with like trademarks and things, but certain companies will use, distribute in certain areas. Sometimes you'll have to go to a healthcare provider just to get certain tape. Some tape you can get, at local grocery stores or like Walgreens or that sort of thing.
Okay, cool.
But let's twist you around, and we're just going to show them how this is going to be the inhibitory effect. So in other words, we're going to now calm down that muscle. It's overworking. Now we want it to work less. So now we'll do the opposite of what we did last time. So we'll go beyond where it's connected. Now this is our anchor. Now I want you to bend forward and twist to the side. There we go. So again, no tension in the anchor. And here, we would pull, not the full amount, but just, less is more, remember? And here's his bone. So we want to anchor beyond where the muscle ends. So now we're just going to slowly have a second anchor there. Again, activating that adhesive in the tape. Now if you stand up one more time. Again, we have those convolutions, meaning it's an indication that we're pulling the fascia one way, but now it's the opposite direction. This one was pulling it down. This one is pulling it up.
I can actually feel the difference. This side, I feel like I'm getting pulled down. This one, I don't feel that.
Yeah,
that's really cool. That's really cool. And for the QL, is this what you normally do if you have some issues? If you have your own version, you just kind of apply it that way.
Yeah, a lot of times, like, not to help you like diagnosing wise or not, but usually if someone has a QL issue, which is very common in my clinic, is stretching that muscle out to begin with, just to get that some mechanical traction there to calm down that muscle helps out. But another thing we can do that's very common is an overactive low back muscle. So these are called your lumbar erectors that come right down here, and a lot of times that'll get really injured right here in this lower portion. So these paraspinal muscles just get overworked. So we can take these off, and we'll show another application of how to just calm down those lumbar erectors.
Yeah, that's good. So are you saying that you may have some issues with the QL if other muscles are not working properly, potentially?
Yeah, and not to like go on a tangent, but yeah, it's like your whole body's a kinetic chain. So if there's one thing that's off, a lot of times it can lead to compensations. Right. So it's not just like an isolated issue a lot of times.
Yeah.
But if we're treating this like an isolated thing, I would just do either one of like the QL to begin with, depending on what the issue is. But this would be just an isolated treatment for the QL.
And then someone who might have a chronic version of this all the time, then this is when they go see like therapists or chiropractors or someone that to figure out exactly mapping out the body, where are these domino effects really starting from and ending.
Yeah, exactly. And when you say chronic, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Whenever someone has pain, that's just an indication that something's wrong. So think of it as like a smoke alarm that's saying, okay, something's wrong here. We don't want to always chase pain around like that's the problem. That's just an indication like, okay,
there is a problem.
There's something going on here. Now, so that's just a symptom that's typically the last to show up when we have an issue. And then when we start treatment, it's the first one to go away a lot of the times. But we still need to address why it was an issue in the first place. So let's get you out of that pain hump, but then fix the structural or biomechanical issues.
Keep coming back.
Exactly, exactly. So let's have you turn around. We'll show you that way to inhibit or calm down the lumbar erectors, these muscles that go right down here. So a lot of times with people with low back pain, this is a great way to get some relief from that. So another way to release this stuff, just so you're not like tearing off hair or whatnot, is just have a finger here and just slowly pull off like so. Not too bad, Greg?
Nope, that's perfect.
And same thing here. All right, so for the lumbar erectors, again, we want to anchor it below where the muscle starts and ends. So for this one, we're going to start it right around here on both sides, and we're going to go up the length of the spine and end it up here. Because these muscles usually, yeah, I mean, they just get overworked. We want to calm them down. So let's go right here as an anchor. We'll get a second one. So his spine is right down the middle here. We're just going to go right on each side of that. All right, so we've got the two anchors. Now I want you to just bend forward and touch your toes. So we want to lengthen those muscles out now. And just like the last application, remember, less is more. We don't want to pull the tape as hard as we can and put it down, but about 25 or 30% is all we need. And we're just going to slowly lay that down. No tension in the anchor. We're just going to roll that over. So now these are our anchors, and this is that therapeutic zone of calming those muscles down. Just a bit of tension. And then when Greg stands up, we're going to see these convolutions here, like so, those ripple effects. That's just really telling us that we're doing it the right way, where it's like pulling that fascia slightly in that direction of just calming that whole area down. How's that feel for you?
Perfect. Feels good. If it feels like I want to be a little bit more upright than I normally think about it.
Yeah.
Because naturally, as a gymnast, you're always in this way. Everything's front support, cross. So my head is like that. Maybe we didn't do that one we did the other day with the pulling neck back. That's common for gymnastics.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it feels like I want to be a little bit more upright. And just, it's almost like a psychological effect where it's like, I know that there's something there, so now it just reminds me constantly to, oh yeah, remember, probably better posture.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And there's this thing called biofeedback too, where it's essentially he's getting impulse or like some kind of stimulus from his back, just as he was saying. It feels like it's just reminding him that it's there. It's the equivalent of if someone was like tapping you right here, that fascia, just like, okay, relax, relax, relax. So yeah, it gives you that biofeedback to just calm down.
So there's a psychological component to this sort of stuff as well as an actual inhibitory or excitatory effect.
Yeah, when people say psychological, I would just say the brain's involved with, because it interprets, you know, movement or even like pain. We interpret that in our brain, right? And then based on that, we interpret what we need to do. And then we send a signal down to either, okay, I need to contract some muscles to help stabilize and like help you know, if there's some pain involved, let's kind of spasm up the muscles around there as like a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's really interested in that connection with like our brain, or our body talking to our brain, and then our brain dictating what are we going to do as a response to that impulse.
That's cool. Well, thank you very much for all the help and all the information.
My
Check out Chris, and if you're in St. Louis, he's obviously here, and all the info will be down below. So again, thank you, and we'll come back next time.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Perfect. Thanks.